It was a bright, sunny afternoon. The small neighborhood was calm and quiet, with birds chirping and leaves dancing gently in the soft breeze. Children were finishing their school day, laughing and running along the narrow streets. Among them was a little girl named Emma. She was small, with golden hair tied in two neat pigtails, and carried a small brown backpack on her shoulders. In her hands she held her lunch, a simple sandwich neatly wrapped in a paper napkin. Emma walked slowly, enjoying the warm sunlight on her face. Her mind was filled with thoughts of the little things she loved: the taste of her favorite sandwich, the gentle hum of the wind, and the sound of distant laughter. She liked walking home alone sometimes because it gave her a moment to notice the small things that others often ignored. As she walked past the corner of the street, her eyes fell on something unusual. A man sat huddled against the side of a brick wall. His clothes were old and worn, patched in several places, and his shoes were far too thin for the chilly air. He shivered slightly, his hands clutching a torn blanket that hardly covered him. Emma's heart tightened. She could see the man was cold, tired, and hungry. Even though she was only a little girl, she felt a strong pull to help him. Without a second thought, Emma walked closer. She held out her sandwich, her small fingers trembling slightly. "Here," she said softly, I want you to have this." The man looked up. His eyes were tired and dull at first, but then they widened in surprise. He hesitated for a moment, clearly not used to such kindness. Then, slowly, a small, grateful smile appeared on his face. "Thank you, little one," he said in a soft, gravelly voice. Emma smiled back. "You're welcome," she said simply. There was no fear in her voice, no hesitation, only pure, innocent kindness. She turned to leave, her small steps light and quick. The man took a bite of the sandwich, savoring each bite as if it were the most precious meal he had ever received. As Emma walked away, she did not notice a shadow behind a nearby tree. A figure stood watching her quietly, holding something small in their hands. Perhaps a notebook, perhaps a camera, it was impossible to tell from this distance. Whoever it was, they were not noticed by Emma. They made no sound, but their gaze followed her every step. The kindness of a little girl had caught someone's attention, though Emma would never know it. The streets were quiet again. Emma skipped lightly along the pavement, her heart warm. She thought only of the happiness in the man's eyes and the small joy she felt inside herself. She felt proud, though she didn't know why. Helping someone, even in such a small way, felt big. It was as if she had done something important, something the world needed. Meanwhile, the man finished the sandwich slowly, savoring every bite. He looked around cautiously, making sure no one was near, and then carefully folded the paper wrapper. He held it in his hands as if it were a treasure and whispered to himself, "A child, a small child, and yet she gave me hope." The unknown watcher scribbled something quickly in their notebook. Every detail, the girl's golden hair, the way she held the sandwich, the little smile on her face, was recorded. There was a purpose in their observation, though it was unclear what it might be. Perhaps this act of kindness was just a small moment in the world. Or perhaps it was the beginning of something far greater, something unexpected that no one could have imagined. As Emma reached her home, she waved to a neighbor who was tending flowers in the front yard. She put her backpack down, ran inside, and called out for her mother. Her heart was light, her spirit full. Little did she know, her simple act of giving a sandwich would not be forgotten. It had been noticed, recorded, and already begun to set events in motion that would change her life forever. The sun began to dip slightly, casting long shadows across the quiet street. Emma sat by the window, looking outside, unaware of the figures still lingering in the distance. The shadows were growing longer, the streets emptier, and the air carried a sense of anticipation. Something was coming, something connected to the kindness of a little girl and the man who had been given a simple sandwich. The day ended quietly, but the story had only just begun. A small act, pure and innocent, had planted a seed that would grow in ways no one could yet imagine. For Emma, it was a normal, sunny afternoon. For the world, or at least for those watching her, this moment was the first step in an unexpected story, one full of mystery, suspense, and the quiet power of human kindness. And in the quiet, a notebook snapped shut. The watcher disappeared into the shadows, leaving behind nothing but the memory of a little girl's heart, and a feeling that something extraordinary was about to happen. The morning sun peeked through the curtains, casting soft golden light across Emma's bedroom. She stretched, rubbing her eyes, and yawned. Today felt like any other day. She quickly got dressed, her small feet padding across the wooden floor as she went to the kitchen. The smell of fresh toast and warm milk greeted her. "Good morning, sweetheart," her mother said, smiling as she placed a plate of scrambled eggs in front of Emma. Her father sat quietly, sipping coffee, scrolling through the morning news on his tablet. The house felt calm, normal, safe. Emma picked up a piece of toast and took a bite, her mind wandering back to yesterday. She thought about the homeless man she had given her sandwich to. She wondered if he had been cold last night or if he had eaten well. She smiled softly. "I hope he's okay," she said quietly. Her mother looked up, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I'm sure he is, Emma. You did a kind thing. You should be proud." Emma nodded, but there was a small flutter of curiosity in her stomach. Something about yesterday felt unusual, though she couldn't say why. Suddenly, a sharp knock echoed from the front door. It was firm, urgent. Emma froze mid-bite. Her father frowned and stood up. "I'll get it," he said. Opening the door, he was met not by a neighbor or delivery man, but by two uniformed police officers. Their faces were serious, professional, and calm, but there was an unmistakable weight behind their expressions. "Good morning, sir," one officer began politely. "We're looking for a little girl named Emma. Is she home?" Emma's father felt a chill run down his spine. "Yes, she's here. Is something wrong?" The officers exchanged glances, then the taller one spoke. "We'd like to ask her a few questions. It won't take long." Emma's mother appeared behind her father, concern etched deeply on her face. She looked at Emma, who now stood frozen, clutching the edge of the kitchen table. "Emma," her mother whispered gently, "come meet the officers." Emma obeyed, her small feet barely making a sound on the wooden floor. She held her mother's hand tightly. Her heart beat faster. Why were the police here? Did someone report something about her? The taller officer knelt slightly to meet her eye level. "Hi, Emma. My name is Officer Daniels. We just need to ask you a few questions. Can you help us?" Emma nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Okay." The officer smiled kindly. "Thank you. You're very brave." They led her to the living room where they sat across from her. One officer spoke gently, while the other remained standing near the door, scanning the neighborhood through the window. Emma's parents stood close, protective and anxious. "Emma," Officer Daniels began, "yesterday did you give something to a man on the street?" Emma's eyes widened. "Yes. I gave him my sandwich." The officer nodded slowly. "Do you know who he is?" Emma shook her head. "No. I don't." There was a pause, a weighty silence that seemed to stretch for a long moment. Then Officer Daniels handed her a small envelope. "He left this for you." Emma's hands trembled as she took the envelope. It was simple, plain, and slightly worn. She opened it carefully, pulling out a folded piece of paper. On it was a short note. "Thank you for your kindness. The world needs more hearts like yours. Be careful, little one. Not everyone is who they seem." Emma's eyes filled with tears. I didn't do anything special," she whispered. Her mother hugged her tightly. "You did something very special, Emma. Don't forget that." But the officers exchanged glances again. Something in their expressions told her parents that this was more than just a simple thank you note. Something unusual was happening, and Emma was at the center of it. The taller officer cleared his throat. "Emma, your act of kindness has been noticed. It is remarkable. But sometimes even small actions can have bigger consequences. We're here to ensure you and your family are safe." Emma looked around the room, confused and slightly frightened. Bigger consequences? What could a sandwich possibly do? Suddenly, a low rumble of a car engine drew their attention. Through the window, Emma's father noticed a black car slowly moving down the street. It didn't stop, but the driver's eyes seemed fixed on the house. The hair on his arms stood up. Something was watching them. The officers seemed to notice too. "Stay inside," one warned quietly. "Do not let anyone in unless it's us." Emma's mother pulled the curtains closed. The warm morning sun now felt cold and tense. Emma sat quietly on the couch, clutching the note, her small hands trembling. She didn't understand the danger, but she could feel it. Her mind drifted back to the homeless man. Was he in danger? Was this somehow connected to him? The thought made her shiver. She had only tried to help, but now it felt like that small act had opened a door she wasn't ready for. The officers reassured her family, but their eyes remained sharp, scanning every movement outside. Every shadow seemed suspicious, every rustle of leaves carried tension. Emma's small heart pounded, and yet she held the note tightly, a fragile comfort in her hands. The morning passed slowly, every second filled with uncertainty. Emma couldn't eat her breakfast, couldn't focus on schoolwork, couldn't stop thinking about the man and the warning. What did the note mean? Who was watching her? And why did something so simple, sharing a sandwich, suddenly feel dangerous? As the sun climbed higher, a quiet voice spoke inside Emma's mind, "Be brave. Even small acts of kindness can change everything." And somewhere outside, in the shadows of the quiet street, a figure watched her house closely, taking notes, waiting for the next step in a story that had only just begun. The morning had stretched into a tense, silent afternoon. Emma sat on the edge of the living room couch, her small fingers tracing the folded edges of the note the homeless man had left. Its words felt heavy in her hands. "Thank you for your kindness. The world needs more hearts like yours. Be careful, little one. Not everyone is who they seem." She read the message again, her eyes widening slightly each time. Who was he? Why did he sound worried? And what did he mean by, "Not everyone is who they seem"? Her mother sat beside her, trying to reassure her, but the worry in her own eyes betrayed her calm voice. "Emma, sometimes adults forget how pure and brave children can be. You did something amazing, but we'll figure out what this means. Don't worry." Emma nodded, but the knot of fear in her stomach did not loosen. Her little mind was racing, trying to understand how a sandwich, an act of kindness, could lead to police officers knocking at her door. She hugged the note tightly. It felt like a fragile lifeline in a world that suddenly seemed much larger, and much stranger, than she had ever known. Outside, the black car she had glimpsed earlier in the morning was gone. But a sense of being watched lingered in the air. Shadows seemed darker, the wind whispering through the trees a little sharper. Emma couldn't see anyone, but she felt eyes on the house. Hours passed slowly. Then, just as her mother began preparing lunch, a soft knock echoed from the front door. Emma froze. Her father stepped forward cautiously, opening the door to find no one. Only the envelope again resting on the doorstep. Emma picked it up carefully. Her hands shook slightly as she opened it. Inside was another note, folded in careful handwriting. "Do not be afraid. Your heart is pure. Keep helping, keep watching. I will come to explain soon." Her mother frowned. Who could this be? Is it him? Emma shook her head. "I don't know, but it's him, I think." Her voice was barely audible. Before anyone could respond, a small sound came from the street, a faint rustle, almost like someone moving quickly between the houses. Emma pressed herself against her mother, peering through the window. At the edge of the sidewalk, she saw the familiar figure of the homeless man. He was standing still, looking directly at her window. For a moment their eyes met. Emma felt a chill run down her spine. There was something different about him. Something important. Something she didn't yet understand. Then he turned and walked away quickly, disappearing into the neighborhood. Emma's father grabbed his coat. "I'll follow." "Stay inside, Emma." But Emma felt a strange pull in her chest. She wanted to know why he was here, what he wanted to say. Something about his presence felt urgent. She stayed glued to the window, watching as her father's figure disappeared down the street, following the man who had received her sandwich. The house was quiet again. Emma's mother sat beside her, holding her hand, but neither spoke. Outside, the city carried on as usual, but for Emma the world felt different. Stranger, larger, and filled with secrets she was only beginning to glimpse. Hours later the officers returned. They did not speak immediately but stood silently, observing Emma and her parents. The taller officer, Daniels, finally cleared his throat. "Emma," he said softly, "sometimes people do things that seem small, but the effects can be larger than we imagine. You helped someone yesterday. That man, he is part of a bigger story. A story you are now part of too." Emma's mother frowned. Part of a bigger story? He was just hungry. That's all. Officer Daniels shook his head. It is never just something. Not in this world. Sometimes the kindest acts are the ones that change everything. We will explain more when it is safe. For now, stay close to your family. Emma felt a mix of pride and fear. Her heart swelled with the thought that her kindness mattered, but a seed of worry had been planted. Why was the man involved in something bigger? And why had she been noticed? Evening came slowly. Shadows stretched long across the streets. The mysterious figure who had been watching the day before returned, slipping silently between the houses. This time, Emma noticed a glimmer of something metallic. A small device, perhaps a camera or a phone, capturing every moment. Emma's father returned home later, looking tense but calm. "He's gone for now," he said. "But there's something about that man, something important. Officer Daniels thinks we'll understand soon. For now, just stay inside, Emma." Emma hugged her father tightly. She wanted answers, but she also knew she had to wait. Her small hands still clutched the second note, feeling the weight of the stranger's words. "Keep helping, keep watching." I will come to explain soon. That night, Emma could not sleep. Her mind kept replaying the events of the day, the sandwich, the man's grateful eyes, the police, the notes, and the figure in the shadows. Something big was happening. Something that involved her. And somewhere outside in the quiet streets, the homeless man looked back at Emma's house one last time before disappearing into the night. In his eyes was a flicker of hope, and a warning. He was not just a man in need. He was a messenger carrying a secret that would soon reach Emma. The city slept, unaware of the quiet tension building in a small house at the edge of the neighborhood. Emma lay in bed, clutching the note, feeling the weight of a world that was suddenly much larger than she had ever known. Tomorrow she would learn more. Tomorrow the mystery would continue. But tonight she only had questions. And in the shadows the watcher made another note in their small book. Every movement, every glance, every moment of Emma's day was recorded. Something was coming, something the little girl could not yet imagine. The next morning was quieter than usual. The sunlight fell softly across the small living room where Emma sat, still clutching the second note the homeless man had left. Her heart was heavy with questions. She did not understand why someone who needed a sandwich could be so important, or why her act of kindness had drawn attention from police officers and mysterious watchers. Her mother made breakfast, trying to maintain a sense of normalcy. But Emma's mind was elsewhere, filled with images of the man and the strange warnings. I wonder why he left those notes, she whispered almost to herself. Before anyone could answer, there was a soft, hurried knock at the front door. It was not the police this time. Emma's father carefully opened the door, and there, standing with his old, worn blanket wrapped tightly around his shoulders, was the homeless man. His eyes were cautious but held a hint of urgency. "Hello, little one," he said softly, his voice gravelly but kind. "May I come in?" Emma's mother frowned slightly but stepped aside. "Please come in. But why are you here? Is everything okay?" The man entered carefully, his eyes scanning the room as if making sure no one was following him. "Everything is complicated," he replied. "But I want to thank you properly, Emma. You helped me yesterday and your heart, it is rare. Pure. I want you to understand that." Emma's small hands clutched the note tighter. "I just gave you my sandwich," she said softly. "That's all." He shook his head gently. "No, little one. That was not just anything. You gave hope. You reminded someone who had lost everything that kindness still exists in the world. You reminded me. And that changes everything." Emma's father looked puzzled. "What do you mean? Who are you really?" The man sighed deeply and sat down on the edge of the couch. "I have not been honest about who I am. I was once part of an organization, one that works in secret to protect people, to solve problems that most people will never see. But circumstances forced me into hiding. That is why I appeared homeless. I had to disappear to be invisible." Emma's eyes widened. She had never imagined anything like this. A real-life hero hiding in plain sight, and she had given him a sandwich. Her small act had reached someone extraordinary. "Your kindness was noticed," the man continued. "Even heroes can forget the value of simple human goodness. You reminded me that the world needs people like you, people who act with pure hearts without thinking of reward." Emma's mother's eyes filled with tears. "I don't understand. You mean, you're not really homeless?" He shook his head. "No, I am not. But I cannot reveal everything yet. There are people who are watching, and my work, it is not yet done. But you need to know, Emma, that your courage and your heart are powerful. More powerful than you think." Emma felt a warm glow in her chest. She had only wanted to help. She had only wanted to do something good. And yet, here she was, part of something bigger, even if she did not fully understand it. The man leaned closer. "I am leaving you something," he said, pulling a small, folded envelope from his coat. "This will guide you if you ever need it. Keep it safe. And always remember, kindness is never wasted. It can change the world in ways even heroes cannot predict." Emma took the envelope carefully, her hands trembling. Inside was a small key and a note. "This key opens a place of safety and knowledge. Keep it close, for one day it may be needed. Trust your heart, Emma. It will lead you true." Her mother gasped softly. "A key? For what? Where?" The man smiled faintly. "For now you do not need to know. Some things must be discovered in time. But know this, your life has touched someone who will protect you. And that protection begins with the simple act of giving." Emma's small eyes sparkled with a mix of excitement and fear. I understand," she said softly. "I will keep it safe." Before anyone could ask more, the man stood up. "I must leave now. But I will return when the time is right. Remember, Emma, never stop giving. Never stop believing in the power of your heart. He walked to the door, glanced once more at the family, and then slipped outside. In an instant he was gone, disappearing into the streets as silently as he had appeared. Emma sat back on the couch, holding the key and the note. She could feel the weight of it in her small hands. Not just the metal but the responsibility, the importance, and the connection to something much larger than herself. Her mother hugged her tightly. "Emma, you've been part of something extraordinary. Never forget that." Her father nodded, still looking out the window as if scanning the street for any sign of the man or the mysterious watchers. "There's more to this story," he said quietly, "and I think we'll see it soon. But for now, you've done something remarkable." Outside, the neighborhood continued its quiet rhythm. Birds chirped, leaves swayed in the gentle breeze, and children played as if nothing unusual had happened. But in the shadows, a figure watched once again, taking notes, recording every movement. The little girl who had shared her sandwich had now become part of a story that was far from ordinary, one filled with mystery, suspense, and the quiet power of kindness. Emma held the key close to her heart that night, feeling the warmth of purpose she had never known before. Her small act of sharing, her simple kindness, had reached someone extraordinary. And as she drifted into sleep, a thought settled gently in her mind: even the smallest heart can change the world. But outside, in the shadows, the watchers knew this was only the beginning. The morning sun had barely touched the rooftops when the sound of sirens broke the quiet of the neighborhood. Emma woke to the blaring noise, her small heart racing. Her mother quickly pulled her out of bed, and her father went to the window to see what was happening. Down the street, several police cars had parked carefully, their lights flashing but without the usual chaos. Officers moved with precision, scanning the area and speaking into their radios. Something serious was unfolding, and Emma immediately felt the tension in the air. "Emma," her father said gently, taking her hand, "stay inside and don't go near the door. I'll handle this." But Emma's curiosity and concern would not let her sit quietly. She peered through the curtains, watching as Officer Daniels, the taller officer who had visited before, stepped out of one of the cars. He scanned the street and then looked up directly at her window. Emma's heart skipped a beat, but she quickly turned away, unsure why he was here again. Her mother tried to keep calm, but her worried eyes betrayed her. "Why are they here again?" she whispered, mostly to herself. A soft knock came at the door. Emma's father opened it cautiously. Officer Daniel stepped inside first, followed by two more officers. His expression was serious, yet there was a warmth in his eyes as he looked at Emma. "Emma," he began, kneeling to meet her gaze, "we need to ask you and your parents a few questions. It won't take long, but it's very important." Emma's mother frowned. "Questions? About what?" Officer Daniels exchanged a glance with his colleague. "It's about the man you helped. He is involved in a situation that we've been monitoring. Your act of kindness brought him out of hiding. We need to make sure you and your family are safe." Emma's small fingers gripped the edge of the table. She remembered the man's words, the key, the notes. Everything was connected somehow, but she didn't understand how. "Stay calm, Emma," her father said quietly. "Just answer what they ask. Everything will be okay." The officers asked about the man, the sandwich, and the notes he had left. Emma answered honestly, her small voice steady but nervous. She told them about the first note, the second note, and the key the man had left behind. Officer Daniels listened carefully, taking notes in his small notebook. "Emma," he said finally, "you did something very brave. Most children would have ignored him or walked past. But you reminded someone important of something he had forgotten. That is rare." Emma's mother leaned in. "Important? What do you mean?" Officer Daniels hesitated, then said, "I cannot tell you everything yet. Some things must remain confidential. But what I can tell you is that your kindness may have changed the course of something significant. That man, he is more than he appears. And now, because of your act, others are aware of him." Emma swallowed hard. She had only wanted to give a sandwich, yet now it seemed her small action had drawn attention from people she didn't even know. People who were watching, judging, and maybe even following the man she had helped. Suddenly, another officer spoke from the doorway. "Sir, we have a report. Someone is following the man. We're not sure who, but it looks like they are watching the neighborhood closely." Emma's father felt a chill. Following him? But why? And why now? Officer Daniels shook his head slightly. "That we don't know yet. But your family's safety is our priority. Emma, stay close to your parents. Don't open the door for anyone, and if you see anything unusual, tell us immediately." Outside, a black car slowly moved down the street, its windows dark and tinted. It paused for a moment as if scanning the houses and then drove away. Emma's heart pounded in her chest. She remembered the same car from the previous day. Someone was watching, tracking, waiting. Her mother held her tightly. Emma, you've done nothing wrong. But some people are dangerous. You must stay safe. Emma nodded, gripping the key tightly in her small hand. It was a small object, but it felt like a shield, a connection to the man who had shown her the true power of kindness. The officers stayed for a while, asking more questions and reassuring Emma's parents. They spoke of surveillance, protection, and caution. It was clear that the man's situation was serious. He was not just a homeless person. He was someone important, someone being pursued or watched, and Emma's small act had brought him into the light. As the officers left, Officer Daniels lingered a moment. Emma, he said softly, you must remember that even the smallest actions can have enormous consequences. But never be afraid to do what is right. Your heart is strong and it will guide you. Emma hugged her parents tightly. The world outside felt more dangerous now, but inside she felt a new strength. She had made a difference even if she didn't understand how. That night as Emma lay in bed, the shadows outside seemed alive. She could feel eyes on the house, the faint hum of a car engine in the distance, and the whisper of wind through the trees carrying a warning she could not yet decipher. Yet in her hands the key felt warm and the notes filled her with courage. The man she had helped was out there and his story was far from over. And she, a little girl with a sandwich, had become part of something far bigger than herself. The world was changing quietly around her. And Emma knew deep inside that the days to come would test her, challenge her, and show her that even the smallest acts of kindness can ripple out to change everything. The next morning dawned quietly, almost deceptively calm. Emma sat by her bedroom window, staring at the streets below, the small key clutched tightly in her hand. Her mind replayed the events of the last few days. The sandwich, the notes, the mysterious man, the police, and the black car that lingered like a shadow over their quiet neighborhood. Something important was unfolding and Emma could feel it in her chest. A soft knock at the door startled her. Her mother entered first, holding a tray with warm tea. Emma, try to eat something, she said gently. It's going to be a long day. Emma nodded silently. She didn't feel hungry. Her thoughts were with the man, the notes, and the secret waiting to be revealed. Later, as the morning grew brighter, there was a sudden knock, sharp, urgent, at the front door. Emma's father opened it cautiously. Standing there, as if he had stepped out of yesterday's shadows, was the homeless man. But something had changed. His posture was confident, his eyes sharper, and there was a faint but unmistakable aura of authority around him. Emma, he said softly, smiling faintly, may I come in? Her parents exchanged nervous glances, then stepped aside. The man entered the living room, his gaze sweeping carefully over the space as if ensuring they were not being watched. I owe you more than I can ever say, he began, sitting on the edge of the couch. Your kindness did not just feed me. It reminded me of who I am, and of why I do what I do. Emma tilted her head, confused. Who are you really? She whispered. The man smiled faintly, a shadow of both pride and sorrow crossing his face. I'm not just a homeless man. I was once part of a special task force, a team that works quietly to prevent dangers most people never know exist. My work required me to disappear from the world. I became invisible. Yesterday you reminded me that even heroes need to remember the simplest truths, that compassion matters, that kindness is powerful. Emma's small hands clenched the notes and key tighter. I just gave you my sandwich, she said softly. That's all. He shook his head gently. No, Emma. That was not all. That was the spark. Your heart reminded me that the world is worth protecting, not just with strength but with care. And now, the people who watch us know I've reemerged. That is why the officers have been here, and why I cannot stay hidden any longer. Her mother gasped. Hidden? Are you saying people are chasing you? Yes, he said, his eyes serious. There are those who want to misuse what I know, what I protect. They have been tracking me. But now, thanks to you, I am visible again. And visibility brings both danger and opportunity. Emma's father frowned. So our little act of kindness, it put you, and maybe us, at risk? The man's eyes softened. Yes, but it also created hope. Courage comes in many forms, Emma. Yours is pure. You acted without thinking of danger, without expecting reward. That is why I am here now, to explain, to guide, and to ensure your safety. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small device. This will help protect you. Keep it with you at all times. And the key you were given, it opens a safe place where you can go if danger comes. Trust it and trust yourself." Emma's eyes widened as she examined the device. It was small, but it radiated importance. "But why me?" she asked. "Because your heart is rare, Emma. You act with courage, with care, with honesty. That is a strength that even adults often forget. The world changes because of people like you, people who do the right thing even when it seems small. You reminded me of that truth. And now you are part of this story." Her mother's voice trembled. "We don't fully understand, but we trust you." The man nodded. "Good. But know this, the world outside our quiet neighborhood is not always kind. There are dangers but also good. And sometimes the smallest actions, like giving a sandwich, can tip the balance between safety and harm, between hope and despair." Emma held the key tightly, feeling its weight and the responsibility it represented. She had never imagined that her small act of kindness would connect her to someone so extraordinary, someone whose work mattered far beyond the quiet streets she had always known. The man rose slowly. "I must go now. My enemies are aware that I am active again and I cannot stay in one place for long. But remember this, Emma. Your courage, your kindness, and your heart will guide you. One day you may need to use the key. Until then, continue to be who you are." Emma felt a swell of pride and fear at the same time. She understood that her life had changed forever. Her small sandwich had begun a story that she could never have imagined, a story of courage, secrets, and human goodness. As he left, she glanced out the window and saw the black car that had been following him slowly disappear around the corner. The watcher in the shadows had been there again, but for now the immediate danger seemed to have passed. Emma held the key and the notes close to her heart. The world was bigger, stranger, and more exciting than she had ever known. And deep inside she felt a spark of courage, small but strong, ready for whatever would come next. For the first time she understood, even a little girl could make a difference. And in the distance, shadows shifted, watchers noted, and the city quietly waited for the next chapter in a story that had only just begun. The next morning, Emma awoke with a sense of purpose she had never felt before. The key rested on her bedside table, small but heavy with meaning. The notes, neatly folded beside it, reminded her of the power of a single act of kindness. Her small sandwich had become the spark that connected her to something far bigger than she could imagine. She dressed quickly and went to the kitchen, where her mother was preparing breakfast. Her father sat at the table, still alert, still scanning the quiet neighborhood outside. "Morning, sweetheart," her mother said softly. "How are you feeling?" Emma smiled faintly. "Brave," she said simply. "And curious." Her parents exchanged a glance, pride and worry mingling in their eyes. They still didn't fully understand what had happened over the past few days, but they trusted Emma, and trusted the mysterious man who had appeared and disappeared like a shadow. Just as Emma sat down, a gentle knock echoed at the front door. It was soft, deliberate, not urgent like before. Her father opened it carefully. Standing there was Officer Daniels, his face calm but serious. "Good morning, Emma," he said, kneeling to her level. "We wanted to check in. Are you and your family safe?" Emma nodded. "Yes, sir. We're safe." Officer Daniels smiled faintly. "Good. I also wanted to say, your act of kindness has been noticed by more than just me or the man you helped. There are others who will see the good you do. And that matters. Never forget that." Emma's mother looked concerned. "Other people? Are we in danger?" The officer shook his head. "Not right now. But it's important to be aware. The world can be dangerous, but it is also full of good. People like Emma remind everyone of that good." Emma hugged her parents tightly. She felt a warmth spread through her chest, stronger than fear. She had done something simple yet meaningful. And now she understood that even small acts, like giving a sandwich, could ripple out in ways she could never imagine. After breakfast, Emma decided to go outside. She carried a small bag with a sandwich she had made herself, thinking of others who might need help. As she walked down the quiet street, she saw a small child sitting alone on a bench, looking hungry. Emma smiled gently and held out the sandwich. "Would you like this?" she asked. The child looked up, surprised, and then nodded. Emma's heart swelled as the child took the sandwich with a shy, grateful smile. From the corner of her eye, Emma noticed a shadow slipping silently between the houses. It was the familiar figure of the man she had helped. He stood there for a moment, watching her, a faint smile on his face, then disappeared once again. Emma's father, who had followed at a distance to ensure her safety, noticed the figure too. He exhaled slowly. "He's still watching, still protecting in his way," he whispered. Emma's mother hugged her from behind. Your heart is strong, Emma. Never forget it. The sun began to dip lower, casting long golden shadows across the neighborhood. Emma and the small child shared a quiet moment, connected by a simple act of kindness. She didn't yet know the full extent of the man's secret, or the dangers that might still exist, but she knew one thing clearly: she had made a difference. And sometimes that was enough. Later that evening, the neighborhood settled into quiet calm once more. From the shadows, a figure scribbled into a notebook, taking note of every movement, every act of courage, and every smile that had passed between Emma and those around her. The watchers remained, aware that a small girl had reminded the world of something powerful: the strength of a pure heart. Emma sat by her window, the key beside her, the notes open in her hands. She looked out at the street, the sun setting softly on the horizon. A thought settled gently in her mind: even the smallest person, even the simplest act, could change everything. The man she had helped, the watchers, the police, they were all pieces of a story she was only beginning to understand. And she knew deep inside that this was just the beginning. Emma smiled softly, hugging the key to her chest. I'll keep helping, she whispered. No matter what. And somewhere in the distance, the shadows shifted once more, watchers noted, and the quiet city held its breath. For the kindness of a little girl had begun a ripple that could not be stopped. And the story of courage, hope, and human goodness had only just begun.